Warp-faced weaves are weaves where you only see the warp and you don't see the weft. If the colors are put in the warp, in your warping plan, and your set is really close together, your weft will be hidden and all you'll see is your warp. On this rep weave, you don't see the weft at all. What you see in the stripes and the blocks are all the warp threads as I threaded them in their color sequence. Here on the edge, you can see that I used an olive green weft, but you don't see the olive green showing up in the weaving at all. So this is a warp-faced weave. Is a croque-brogue, and you don't see any of the warp threads except at the ends where you can see what I used for a warp is this linen, and the yarn, the wool yarn that makes the design is the weft. So this is a weft-faced weave. For the bands that I'm going to talk about today, I designed a motif for a strawberry on graph paper, and then I plotted out how my color sequence is going to be in my warp, and I strung my loom up in that color sequence. My threading is straight twill, 1 of 5 blocks, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way across. My treadling is a point twill, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. My tie-up is lifting one shed at a time, so what that makes is a right and a wrong side, and on the wrong side you can see I have floats. The tape has 90 ends, and there's about it's about 1 inch wide. And I like the roundness of the strawberries in the design. Let's talk about how I did this sample. So I wound my warp and I beamed it on to the back beam, and then I threaded it, but I didn't slay the reed. I did my tie up on it, and then I treated it like an inkle weaving and used a belt shuttle and an inkle style of weaving where there's no reed, and let it just mush together as close as it wanted to be. And as you can see, it's very nice warp faced weave. The width of this, if I can show you, it's about 3/4 of an inch wide. And also, the thing I noticed about this is it does seem like it wants to curve and have this little kind of a curve in it. And I think that's because of the floats, so many floats on the back, that it caused it to maybe not lay as flat. I could probably steam it flat and maybe stretch it, but I just wanted to note that too in my sample and just say, well, okay, do I want flat strawberries, and do I want this curve, or do I want to mess around with how I can get rid of that and how I can change it? The way I got rid of it, the curve, and the way I got my strawberries to be more round was to use a reed. I put a 10-dent reed in my reed holder, and I slayed the reed to be 100 ends per inch. So there were 10 ends in each dent in the reed. And then I used a belt shuttle, and but I used the reed to bead it with. And it gave me a band that is about 1 inch. It looks like it's about 1 inch wide. And I got 4.5 yards of these lovely little strawberries. Here I'm making my sample. I'm not using a reed. I'm using an inkle method and a belt shuttle. And looks like I've got a good warp-faced weave going on there, but my strawberries look kind of flat, but this is my sample. So I'm going to just continue to do it for a few more inches and before I cut it off and wash it and look at it. Here you can see I've added the reed and I slayed it with 10 ends in each dent in a 10 dent reed. And my strawberries are much rounder. I'm using a belt shuttle to open my shed to feed my yarn through. I also am using a floating salvage. Designing a motif can be old school using graph paper and colored pencils. Or you can use Excel spreadsheet and make a graph paper on the columns and the rows and color in the blocks and make your motif. Once I have my motif in graph paper or Excel, I take it to iWeave it, put it on my iPad, and just plot it out. It doesn't look like much at this point, but if I go into the calculator part of iWeave it, I can do a balanced weave, a warp-faced weave, or a weft-faced weave. When I push the warp-faced weave, it looks entirely different and I see my motif. Now I'm finished with this project. I went back to the Excel spreadsheet and I made my notes regarding my sample, and then I exported it as a PDF file. I uploaded it to my website on the tutorial page. So if you go to underwoodtextilearts.com, you'll be able to find the PDF file and download it. And if you like, make your own twill tape of the strawberries. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed making it. And a happy weaving to you. I hope your weaving is a success and you enjoy it as much as I do. Thank you very much.